Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us for another lesson, number 15. We're going to try this again.
Take two.
Take two, a week apart because shit happens. But yeah, we tried to record this last week and the audio did not record, which is probably on my end. That was a operator error, but I like to believe that it's some conspiracy to keep us from telling the story.
I mean, it might be. When you first told me about it, I was like, NSA?
I know, me over here always like yelling at the NSA man in my phone. I know. Yeah, stop it. I had to cover it up the other day because I was like, I'm gonna get somebody. Anyways, get the business out of the way. If you found us here first and are a fan of the supernatural, give our flagship show a try. Almost 100 episodes about everything from the Bell Witch to the legend of Robert Johnson and even the government Operation Stargate. If you would be so kind, please give us a follow and share on social media. Search for the Paranormal Lovers in the search bar on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. On Blue Sky, you will search for Paranormal Lover without an A and an L. Look at the hashtags on Instagram. It's spelled like that. On Blue Sky. And you can also find videos of these episodes on YouTube by searching for the same name. If you would like to support the podcast, we have a couple ways you can do so. First, we have our merch shop over at theparanormallovers.threadless.com. We might be having a sale. I don't fucking know. I haven't looked recently. Go check it out. We might be having a sale. I don't know.
We've been super busy.
I haven't been busy physically. I've just been struggling mentally the last few weeks. So, there are new designs for 2024 Christmas, a few for our regular merch, and then we have the 2 designs for hurricane relief as well. Second, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/paranormal lovers, where you, for just $5 a month, you get early access to unedited videos of both shows, as well as 2 stickers per month, one from the merch shop, one handmade by Ian.
Yeah.
And finally, if you have a personal story, a topic request, or you just want to yell at us for our super liberal views, I will fight you. Email us at theparanormallovers@yahoo.com. I had to think about which podcast we were on for a second. I'm like, will I allow them to yell at me on this podcast? No, I will not.
No.
I will delete your email and pretend like you don't exist. Because in my mind, you don't.
Yep.
I live rent free in your head, not the other way around. All right. So we're going to go back to the darker side of history again. This week we are going to look at the life, death, and legacy of Fred Hampton again. Fred. Oh, how much I wish Fred was still around.
Such a cool dude.
Such an amazing guy.
I guess this one will be different because you're not like or I'm not reacting to it now.
Yeah.
I already know about it, so
you can kind of give some more commentary on it.
Yeah, maybe.
Fred was an American Marxist-Leninist revolutionary, one of the founders of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. He also led a chapter of the NAACP and formed the first Rainbow Coalition, which is why he would be murdered by the police in his home at the very young age of 21.
What is the Rainbow Coalition?
I will get to it.
Okay.
That's so funny. You don't even remember what I told you last week.
I mean, I don't remember any of the episodes that we do, really.
That's the truth.
We've done so many.
I was trying to think
I remember some things about them, but not like everything.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something that I was listening to some podcast the other day, and I was trying to think of a different podcast, and I was like, I know they've done an episode on this, and I tried to think about it, and I was like, I don't fucking remember it though. You guys,
Yeah.
I literally listened to almost 100,000 minutes of podcasts this year.
She's a crazy podcast lady.
100,000 minutes of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like there's only 929,800 minutes in a year. Thank you, Glee, for that. You remember that? Yeah. So it's a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I don't remember.
It's almost all year long.
It is. Well, yeah, because I literally, when I have my
She lives
headphones
in her
on,
headphones.
I do. When I have my headphones on, there's a podcast in my ear because it helps. I don't know why. I don't have to listen to the words, just need the noise. All right. Fred Allen Hampton Sr. was born on August 30th, 1948, in Summit, Illinois, as the third child to Francis and Ibera Hampton. From a young age, Fred was aware that he was a young black man and how dangerous that could be for him. His mother, Ibera, would babysit neighborhood children, and one being Emmett Till. For those of you who don't know, what rock do you live under? But
Yeah.
also, Emmett Till was a teenage boy who went to visit his family in Mississippi in 1955 and was accused of whistling at a white woman in a store. This led to a literal lynch mob, kidnapping Emmett, torturing, and killing him. I would appreciate all of you, but especially white parents, to sit with this for a minute. Emmett Till was a young 14-year-old boy. Fred Hampton was only 7 when Emmett was murdered, the same age our child is. Our child, whom I had to have a talk about with racism when she was 4, because of experiences that we've had in her lifetime. If my child has to live in a world where they are aware of the fact that people still want to kill us because of our melanin, your child can learn about it in elementary school. Just
For sure.
imagine if the roles were reversed and it was your 14-year-old murdered or your 7-year-old, you have to tell you their friend was murdered.
I'd be going like, what's that movie where they're like taken?
Yeah.
I'd be going that on whoever.
It's a Time to Kill.
I'd be like,
Have you seen that one with Samuel L. Jackson and Matthew McConaughey's lawyer?
I don't think I have seen it. I bet it's good though.
It'll fuck you up.
I might have seen some scenes, but
His daughter was assaulted by white men and he knew that they weren't going to go to jail, so her daddy killed him in the courthouse.
right.
And then he went on trial for murder.
Sure.
And Matthew McConaughey was his attorney. All right.
All right.
It's a great fucking movie. It'll pull at your heartstrings. Y'all, this movie came out in like the 90s. So
Yeah.
I'm not spoiling anything.
Right.
If you haven't seen it, it's still as prevalent today
For sure.
as it was when it came out. Kind of like American History X.
Mm-hmm.
God, I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
Still prevalent today
For
as it
sure.
was the day it came out. If you think neo-Nazis and skinheads are gone, again, what rock are you living under?
Yeah, they just made the news in Ohio. They had like skinhead marches. Yeah.
Ew. See, I'm actually kind of worried that we're going to end up having a rally around here. And when that happens, Bill, we're going to pack our shit up. We're going to leave. And I don't give a fuck how much money's in the bank account.
Right.
I'm dipping because I will not live in a town that has
Nazi parades.
white people rallies. I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, fuck that.
I will not live in a town that has white supremacy rallies. I will not. Anyways, so sit with that for a minute, please. I know it's uncomfortable, but so is my anxiety over whether someone will assault me anytime I leave the house, or whether or not I live in an area that's going to have a fucking Klan rally, folks. And that cannot compare to what Fred was experiencing back in the day, because the Klan was just out and about having a fucking good old time back then.
Yeah.
This young man lived in Chicago, which you would think would be a safe place for black folks, but it has never been. And that is Candyman. Y'all, that movie Candyman?
Yeah.
It's based on real events, not the whole supernatural part of it, but someone crawling through the mirrors.
And Cabrini Green.
Yeah. It's
the
not.
Cabrini Green building's real.
Yeah, that whole area is real, and I think Morbid did a Y'all go look at Morbid Wine and Crime, and that's why we drink. One of them did maybe Sinisterhood. One of them did an episode. Several of them have done an episode on the Candyman and the real life crime that inspired Candyman.
I want to
and
watch that one.
the systematic racism that put these people in a place and situation, and classism, but very much
Racism too, yeah.
That put these people in a place and situations that bred crime.
Yeah.
And people think that this shit isn't systematic. It's all fucking systematic. They made these places for a reason.
For sure. I watched a video of Violent J, ICP.
ICP, yeah.
He was talking about Detroit, Michigan, and how, like, one side of it, you got these billionaires. I mean, just like huge buildings and like just billionaires. They're like living high on the hog. But then there's a wall at it's 8 Mile. The movie 8 Mile. There's a wall that's like 8 miles long. And on the other side of it, you got crackheads. Like, you know what I'm saying? Just like lowest class people on the other side of the wall.
Like, is this Germany? And are we in Berlin?
And it's like one side's super rich and one side's super poor. And it's just horrible.
Was made that way.
Like, and it's class warfare.
And I'm going to go on a whole little tangent right now. I've been learning so much about how not even that, but integration was a way to take good education from black kids and force them to get subpar education in white schools, therefore crippling the black community even more. Right. And then you have them go into Tulsa, you have them go into Wilmington, you have them go into Rosewood, and they literally burn down whole goddamn towns full of black people because they are jealous that the black folks are doing so much better in their communities than the white people.
Right.
It's all fucking connected, y'all.
Yeah.
So they burn down their neighborhoods, they build fucking ghettos and condos, they take away their education, they take away their businesses. What the fuck is left for us to do?
Yeah.
That's been my new thing lately. When I get mad, I gotta go. Just exhale the bullshit. Inhale the good shit.
Breathe.
Exhale the bullshit. What was she doing on Beetlejuice? You missed it. Spoiler alert. Lydia was getting real frustrated last night, and so she'd come out of the house and she was going, oh, 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 oh. She was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? She's like, it's a breathing exercise. It helps. That's what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to start walking around the house going, oh, oh, oh. Sounding like a fucking moose and eat. Sorry, we watched a bunch of movies last night, and it was a good night.
Yeah, it was.
Watched Beetlejuice, which Ian fell asleep for after we watched Alien Romulus, which is great.
Yeah.
All right, so back to Fred. Fred and his family moved to Maywood, which is a suburb of Chicago, when he was 10, where he attended Irving Elementary School and Proviso High School. Fred was quite athletic and hoped to play for the New York Yankees when he was a child, so he was a big baseball guy.
Imagine if he went and played for the Yankees. That'd be awesome.
I wonder if he'd still be alive.
I don't know.
Probably not, because he probably would have went and played for the Yankees and then would have left and then began a civil activism, or he would have been doing a civil activism while he was playing for the Yankees, and he still would have been murdered anyways. So
it's true.
But Fred had a greater calling in life, and that he started it young. Now, I'm not sure if it was before or after they moved, but when Fred was 10, he began cooking meals on the weekends for the neighborhood children. And what many people do not realize, when their kids go off to school and have a nice breakfast before class start, that program was started by a 10-year-old black boy in his yard. And I will explain more about that in a moment. And I have to pause. All right, and we're back. You left me alone to get on the phone, and I found this thing that's going to send us on another side quest.
Uh-oh.
Okay, hang on. In 1916, 15,000 people Americans gathered to watch a lynching. They brought their children and sold popcorn like it was a carnival. A mob dragged 17-year-old Jesse Washington from the Waco courthouse. They cut off his fingers, toes, and genitals while he was alive. The crowd fought over his body parts as souvenirs. His body was burned alive over as a bonfire. Spectators collected parts of his charred body to keep, sell, and eat.
Jesus.
Professional photographs were taken and sold as postcards across America. Between 1865 and 1950, lynchings regularly drew thousands who traded, displayed, and consumed
Ugh.
victims' remains.
What the fuck?
This is a fun fact that I learned the other day, and I kind of had to go, no, that's not real. And then it was, and then I kind of stuffed it in the back of my brain because I didn't want to think about it. Some of our ancestors, and I include myself in this because they were also white on half a side, literally went to lynch mobs and would eat black people
What the fuck?
because they didn't consider us human.
That's crazy.
They consumed us just like the fucking mummies. You want to know why we don't have
What
many
the hell?
mummies? Because Europeans believe that they could
Grant
eat the
magical
mummies
powers.
and it would help their bodies. So
That's
they
weird.
would grind up mummies and consume them.
What the fuck?
White people are fucking weird, yo. Go back down here. All right. While in high school, Fred organized a student chapter of the NAACP, or the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.
There's a picture here where it's a black kid and a white kid eating breakfast at school,
Mm,
and like the white kid's dressed in a Black Panther's outfit.
nice.
Like, that's awesome. I don't know if he was like all white, you know, he may have been like Hispanic or something, but
Yeah, I mean, there's no telling. I mean, there were, like I said, the Rainbow Coalition. There were white people that were involved in this too. So
yeah, he
not
just
the Black Panther Party, but
the white kid's wearing like a beret with like buttons on it. I'm like,
that's awesome.
yeah,
Oh, I should. Oh, you have a beret. I'm still one of
I
your
do.
berets.
I have a beret. I have two of them. I think
That's
think
what I
there's two of
said.
them in
I'ma
there.
Still, yeah, there's two. There's the blue one with like the plaid on it, and then the red one. Anyways, he was a part of the school's interracial cross-section committee, which I think is great, which was a club that helped white students confront their racist beliefs. Can we bring that back?
For sure.
I bet Patty's gonna bring that back.
That'd be awesome. I'd help her.
During this time, Eugene Moore, a classmate of Fred's who was unjustly arrested, which Fred and others protested. Moore would go on to become the area's first black state representative. Fred led walkouts protesting the exclusion of black kids from homecoming court and, quote unquote, lobbied the school officials to hire more black faculty. So, yeah, he had to literally protest the fact that black kids weren't allowed in homecoming. No, we were integrated in some areas. Anyways. Fred graduated high school in 1966 with honors, varsity letters, and a Junior Achievement Award, and would go on to enroll in Triton College, a community college near Maywood. Around this time, Fred began reading works on socialism and communism. Seeing third world socialism struggles as a young black man in Chicago in the 60s, Fred began identifying with their struggles. In 1967, Fred began holding rallies in the hopes of getting an integrated pool built in Maywood. There was one a couple of miles away, but it was for whites only. The closest integrated pool was several more miles away, and it was a long way for many of these kids who would have to walk to get there. At one such rally, store windows were broken and a shed was set on fire, which brought out the force of law enforcement. It was not known who caused the damage, but I'm sure you can imagine who was blamed. If you look back at the riots and shit after George Floyd died, there was a lot of instigators at those rallies that were not there for the right reasons. And this is a proven fact, not a conspiracy, folks. There were literally people there that would start shit just so they could make the other side look bad.
Yeah.
It is not, oh, yeah, I already said that. Fred and 17 others were charged with, quote, disorderly conduct and mob action, end quote. But the rallies would eventually pay off and an integrated pool would be approved for the neighborhood. Although it would not be built by the time of his death, the village board voted to name the site the Fred Hampton Family Aquatic Center. and you can still go there today.
That's cool.
When we ever go to Chicago, we're going to have to go to the pool.
Sure.
It was around this time that the FBI opened a file on Fred, and in February of 1968, they began tapping his mother's phone. Which I'm like, leave his damn mama out of this.
Right.
Why the hell you got to go after his mama? Can't we learn? Y'all need to watch Rebel Ridge. Don't fuck with people's families.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, MCMAP means Marine Corps Martial Arts. Don't fuck with McMap.
Yeah. For sure.
Fred and many others would have very negative and violent experiences with the police at protests and rallies. Due to the NAACP's nonviolent by-the-book methods, Fred left the organization in 1968 and joined the Black Panther Party. Wrong hand, sorry. Well, he was actually one of the founders of the Illinois chapter of the party. The Black Panther Party was founded to protect black neighborhoods from acts of white mobs and to arm the people of their community. Sorry. Let's drink some water, folks.
There's a picture of Eddie Murphy on here with a Fred Hampton was murdered shirt.
We should make some of those.
Yeah.
We should make some Fred Hampton was murdered shirts. That would be great. Yeah, I mean, this was 1968.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Well, no, but all of our parents were like tweens.
Mm-hmm.
Literally 1968. My mom was 10. Your parents would have been 11 and 12.
Yeah.
Think about that, folks. Your parents were alive and old enough to remember this.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really sucks about Mama being dead is I can't be like, Mom,
do you remember that?
The Black Panther Party was not what they made you think it was.
Right.
Because I remember her being like, oh, they're just as bad as the Klan. No, they're... That's what Hoover wanted you to believe.
Right.
The same year, Fred was arrested and charged with assaulting an ice cream truck owner, stealing $71 worth of ice cream, and handing it out to the neighborhood children. Now, I have not searched for this police record as that costs money that we don't have at the moment, but I can only imagine that he did so for a good reason. Imagine telling kids they can't have ice cream from your truck because they're brown. Imagine how you might react if, say, for example, you heard the ice cream truck owner call a group of kids monkeys or dogs or dirty or the N-word because they're black. Whether we want to believe it or not, whether that's what happened in this instance, that was a fact for life of black kids back in the day. So I doubt Fred had any regrets when he was sentenced to prison time, although some sources state that this was yet another effort of the government to undermine Fred's credibility. Over time, the party's ideals grew to include seeking reparations for the descendants of enslaved people, seeking to have black people removed from the draft, and once again setting out to arm their communities for their protection. Some people see the Black Panther Party as a dangerous organization hell-bent on taking everything from the white man by violence when they can. Hoover called the party the greatest threat to the internal security of the U.S., which is funny since the KKK was doing a hell of a lot worse shit at this time.
For sure.
But, they're white people, so it's fine. As soon as Chicago chapter... Sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's frustrating. I know. It's frustrating.
They just wanted to be, equals.
That's it. That's all we've ever wanted is, equality. And it's imagine if we wanted more than that. As soon as the Chicago chapter was up and running, the FBI was watching them like a hawk. Hoover put Fred on the Bureau's agitator index. Agitator index?
I mean, technically, the U.S. owes you guys more than that, because of the stuff that has been taken away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and most of us didn't get our 40 acres and a mule like we were supposed to either. So, And then the ones that did get it, y'all burned our shit to the ground. So,
right. They owe you.
Yeah. Hoover put Fred on the Bureau's agitator index up there with Malcolm X and MLK as a possible, quote, key militant leader. Now, for all those people that are all like, oh, listen to MLK, he was the peaceful one of y'all. He was so peaceful, then why was he on the FBI's agitator index
Right.
as a quote unquote key militant leader?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, MLK said a lot about being peaceful and working together, but MLK also said that violence was the language of the unheard.
Right.
So y'all need to fucking listen.
It's kind of like the CEO shooting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all of America agrees that, yeah, it was good. Like, you know?
I'd say 75% of America agrees. 25% of
Right.
people are still like, but what about his children?
But the government's like,
And I'm like, well,
nope,
maybe
this
his
guy's
children,
gonna get locked up and burned.
well, maybe his children will grow up knowing that their father was a bad man and they won't be a bad men. Quote, Hamilton was a possible suspect for what Hoover considered the threat of an emerging messiah, a leader who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement, end quote. That wasn't at all what he was doing. He was just trying to get some equality around here.
Yeah.
Part of this would also be attributed to Fred's condemnation of sexism. In 1969, he did so at a meeting as Chairman Fred, and after that, sexism was considered counter revolutionary because it fucking is.
Right.
Because women. By 1970, 40 to 70% of the members of each chapter were black women.
Hell yeah.
One of the ways they kept tabs on the party was through the use of an informant. William O'Neill was a young black teenager who had, while drunk, stolen a cart and crashed it. He was also arrested at least twice for interstate car theft, as well as impersonating a police officer. To get out of the charges and to get a monthly stipend, he would give up information to the FBI's Racial Matters Squad, which, why the fuck we got that?
Right.
That ain't the government's business.
No.
Which was later proven when a memo to pay him a bonus for his good information from the raid was found among other papers. And he had the information as he had been appointed the Illinois chapter security director, as well as acting as Hampton's bodyguard. He was able to get reports on meetings, access to firearms, and floor plans of their home, all with special attention to Fred. Fred had been appointed the deputy chairman, and Chairman Fred, as he was lovingly called, set out to start social programs for the community. This included a medical clinic and free breakfast for children. However, they were not able to do so peacefully. You remember this part, Bill? The food.
Where they like destroyed the food. Yeah.
In Richmond, Virginia, FBI agents began a disinformation campaign claiming that the program was really a cover to teach racial divisiveness. In San Francisco, they claimed the food was contaminated with venereal diseases, aka STDs and STIs. One former party member claimed the night before the Chicago breakfast program was set to begin, police broke into the church where the food was kept and proceeded to destroy it. They claimed they smashed anything they could and urinated on it.
That's horrible.
This is literally food for kids, y'all.
It's like when they took the homeless food in Asheville.
Yeah.
Like
And dumped it out.
Took their bottled water and like dumped it out. I'm like, what the hell?
I feel like they also like cut holes in their tents and shit.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be able to like pitch their tents.
Yeah.
Like,
all because they didn't want them there.
There is literally a war on homeless people. And instead of, I don't know, giving them a place to stay, we do everything we can to make them as uncomfortable as possible. That's not going to help fix the problem, folks.
No. It's evil. Mm.
And this, like, you pissed on food for kids?
Right.
Do you feel like a big man? Does that make you feel better about yourself pissing on food that was meant for
children?
Low income children?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Like, while this vandalism did set back the opening of the program, it did the opposite of what the government had been hoping it would do and actually garnered more support from the community for the program and the party.
I'm sure.
And what makes this even worse, at least in my opinion, is that the Black Panther Party's breakfast program would go on to be the foundation for the USDA expanding their breakfast program and the creation of the National School Breakfast Program in 1975.
Yeah. I remember eating breakfast at school.
I ate breakfast at school all the time, and I had reduced lunch, so it was like 40 cents.
Yeah.
There
And
were,
that's why.
this is one of those things that makes me think that like they had love our culture but hate us. Like they always be stealing shit from us, whether it's black people, indigenous people, Asian people. Like have an original thought and quit stealing everybody else's shit.
Yeah.
Ah,
Or at least give them credit.
right?
Like,
there will be many episodes in this podcast that will shed light on the contributions of black and brown people to our society that have been stolen and credited to a white man or even just blatantly ignored.
yeah.
Many of the tactics used against the Black Panther Party and Fred were part of the CONINTELPRO program, which was, quote, a counterintelligence program conducted by the FBI from 1956 to 1971 to discredit and neutralize organizations considered subversive to the U.S. political stability. Listen to that sentence again. Oh, I know you heard it. I want everybody else to listen to that. A counterintelligence program conducted by the FBI to discredit and neutralize organizations considered subversive to U.S. political stability.
Sounds pretty fucked up to me.
It was covert and often used extra-legal means to criminalize various forms of political struggle and derail several social movements, such as those for civil rights and Puerto Rican independence, end quote. Yeah, because Puerto Rico doesn't want to be a part of America. They are Puerto Rico. Leave them alone.
Right.
One of the greatest things Fred created, in my humble opinion, you asked about the Rainbow Coalition. This was an alliance of different groups and organizations that in some way overlap. This could be due to race, ideology, finances, etc. Fred made the argument that fighting between these factions would only lead their impoverished communities staying in poverty. He believed that by coming together and sharing resources, aka socialism, would bring their communities out of poverty. And he brought together groups that otherwise would have never been in contact. Groups like, quote, the Puerto Rican Young Lords Association, the Poor White Young Patriots Organization, and the Blackstone Rangers Street Gang, end quote. And those are
Nice.
those are some fucking hardcore organizations and associations and gangs. Like, this is Chicago, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, this is Chicago, okay?
Yeah. It's
But what about Chicago?
it's still like that.
Hey, Tony Baker. Each organization came with their own resources and they pulled them together to help out their communities, many of which were low income and often ignored by the government. It was this ability to bring people together and his charisma that had the FBI and Hoover concerned. If Fred had not been killed, it would not have been long before he would have been given a prominent position within the Panther Party and he would have become a national name. This would have thrown off the balance of power the government was trying to keep, and they just couldn't have that.
Yeah.
Fred was arrested twice with Jose Chacha Jaimez and charged with mob action for peaceful protest of a welfare office. Later, other organizations would join the coalition, including the Brown Berets, the Red Guard Party, and AIM.
Nice.
Just a shout out to our friends on the West Coast, Indigenous Tales did a 3-part series on AIM, the American Indian Movement, which is linked in the show notes. Go give it a listen. But the point of the group was largely common action and moral support. Should one organization organize a protest, sit-in, or some other kind of demonstration, all groups would come together to attend and support each other. During this time running the Chicago chapter, Fred organized weekly rallies, attended strikes, worked with the People's Clinic, taught political lessons every day, and started a community-based program to supervise the police. This would also be the time he brought his free breakfast program to the masses. Had he not been murdered, he would have moved up to the party's Central Committee Chief of Staff. Under the COINTELPRO program, the FBI sent out anonymous letters to cause distrust within and outside of the party. This would lead to a split between the Blackstone Rangers and the Panthers that led to a gunfight on April 2nd, 1969. The Panthers were pushed out of their neighborhood for the most part, and Hoover set out to destroy all the relationships Fred had been able to form with other groups. They actively worked to sow distrust between the groups, inciting violence that led to many murders across the country. All I can think of is like these sneaky little fuckers, like, do you know that this guy over here was doing this? And then they go over here and they whisper
Yeah.
in this guy's ear. And it's just like, y'all are gross.
That's what they still do nowadays. Like,
Oh yeah, y'all may not think disinformation campaigns are real. They're very fucking real.
oh yeah,
They've been used well since before the 1960s, and they will be continued to use by the government.
they want poor people to fight amongst themselves, not the rich people.
Yeah. Get them to fight amongst themselves, give them an enemy amongst themselves, and they won't notice us over here stuffing our pockets like fat cats.
Yep. Sitting back and collecting while they watch us destroy ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And it's a classism thing that is also tied in with a white supremacy thing.
Yep.
Because if you are not a rich white man, they don't care. And if you're a rich black man, you're a token. So don't think you're special in that regard.
No.
The violence between the party and Chicago police came to a head on December 4th, 1969. A 14-man team of law enforcement conducted a raid on Fred's apartment. They rolled up in an unmarked gas truck and in plain clothes before they busted open the front door and opened fire. They claimed they were going after a large stockpile of weapons, and as they opened the door, they were fired upon as they were trying to serve a search warrant. They did take weapons from the apartment, but none of them were ever identified. In the end, Fred Hampton, Mark Clark, and some sources say 2 other Panther Party members were dead. Now, keep in mind this raid happened in the night while Fred and his pregnant fiancée, or common law wife as some sources label her, were lying in bed sleeping. Deborah Johnson, along with 7 other survivors, would be arrested for attempted murder, aggravated battery, and unlawful use of weapons. However, it would come to light later on that out of the 100 shots fired into an apartment, y'all, apartments have walls with other apartments. They in here fucking spraying shit. Yeah, other people got hurt, not just the people in the apartment.
I'm sure.
Out of the 100 shots fired, 99 of the shots came from law enforcement.
I'm sure all of them were just sleeping.
Mm-hmm. The one that was fired by the party was fired by Clark. As his body was going through the death throes, his hand squeezed the trigger and it shot into the ceiling. That was it. That was the only shot fired. Out of 100 shots fired into this apartment.
After they claimed that they were being shot at.
They claimed to open the door, be shot at, and then open fire. You don't need 14 people to return fire. No.
That's crazy.
All of the charges were dropped. There's some debate on whether there were drugs found in Fred's system. There's really no debate. But allegedly, there were 3 toxicology reports done. The first 2 came back clean. The first 2 done by law enforcement. You know, that sneaky Chicago law enforcement. But a later test done during an independent autopsy showed a dangerously high level of barbiturates. It is believed that William O'Neill had been the one to put the drugs in his meal to make him an easy target for the police, and so he would not fight back. Deborah, who would later go by Akau Najiri, said in a couple of interviews she had tried to wake Fred up before the raid began, but he was unresponsive. Once the police showed up, she was removed from the bedroom. Once the police showed up and she was removed from the bedroom, she claimed she heard one cop tell another Fred was almost dead, followed by 2 gunshots, and the other one replying, "He's good and dead now."
That's horrible.
Yeah. I would be like, okay, well, so are you. I would get shot because you're going to shoot my man right there with me in another room, and I'm pregnant.
Right.
No. After the murder, law enforcement left the apartment unattended, and members of the Panther Party set out about doing their own investigation. Mike Gray and Norris McNamara were set in to get photo and video evidence of the crime scene. It would be this evidence that would help prove that the raid was actually an assassination, as much as the police tried to paint themselves in a better light.
Right.
In one in a page 1 article in the Chicago Tribune, pictures were published that showed small holes in a curtain and on a door jamb that they tried to claim were bullet holes shot by the Panther Party. But Jack Callum, editor of the Wright College News, a student-ran paper at Wright Junior College in Chicago, had visited the scene on December 6 and took many photos of the area. He took his photos to a reporter at the Chicago Sun-Times, which later also ran a page 1 story titled, "Those Bullet Holes Aren't."
Right.
And that's a quote. According to this article, those supposed bullet holes were actually nail holes.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I don't know, you got to be stupid to try and pass that shit off as a bullet hole.
Yeah.
I can tell the difference between a fucking nail hole and a bullet hole.
For
And
sure.
I mean, even using a fucking 16 penny nail, like them really long, big nails, I can tell the difference between a fucking nail hole and a bullet hole.
Yeah, I mean, nails would probably look more like a 22 hole than. I'm sure they weren't using 22s when they.
I don't even know what a
fired upon
22
them.
hole would look like. Like, in my mind, a bullet, like a nail hole, like that nail, that's a tiny ass hole.
Yeah.
It's a pinprick compared to what a bullet's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after the raid, Cook County Coroner Andrew Toman began forming a jury for a coroner's inquest. Some people in the black community were disappointed in the coroner's selection of the jury, as only 3 out of the 11 were black. And what's more is that 2 of them were not people who were raised in Fred's community, but in rather richer white communities.
Right.
Token black people.
The cops didn't want them to know.
No. In my opinion, the whole process was a sham. The only testimony heard was from the police and quote unquote expert witnesses, which is why it should be no surprise that due to the evidence presented, the jury found the shooting to be justified homicide. It is said that the surviving members did not want to testify as they were still facing charges. The jury foreman claims that they couldn't take their word without their testimony. On May 15th, 1970, a report from a federal grand jury criticized the whole event and all involved. They said the raid was ill-conceived and too many errors were made in the investigation. They said the survivors could have helped the investigation along with their testimony, and they shamed the media for blowing the story up so much. Which, like, the media would keep their fucking nose out of shit.
Yeah.
While the Hampton family, Clark family, and other survivors of the raid did receive a settlement of over $1.85 million from the various governments, no one was ever charged for Fred or Mark Clark's death. Jeffrey Haas and his partner at the People's Law Office, Flint Taylor, are the 2 to take on this case. It is through a break-in at a FBI office in Philadelphia in 1971. I still, no matter how many times I say that, read it, see it, just the fact that there was a break-in at an FBI office, I'm like, what are y'all doing? You're supposed to be like one of the top law enforcement agencies in the world, and people are breaking into your office to steal your shit?
Right.
That they learned of the COINTELPRO program the FBI had going. In 1977, FBI agent William Wesley Swearingen became a whistleblower in the case, claiming that the Chicago police had been set up by the FBI to kill Fred. They were told that they were going to be walking into a dangerous situation with people who would be heavily armed and would not hesitate to kill them.
Mm.
So,
Trying
this
to
is
cover
the
their asses.
FBI. No, the FBI agent is the one that said, yeah, we went and told law enforcement that they needed to watch their ass so that they would go in thinking that they needed to shoot so we could get Fred killed.
Yeah.
Because we needed him dead. Like, so that's not Chicago police trying to cover their ass. That's the FBI saying, yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
We set them up to murder this man.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. It would take until 1982, but finally the attorneys were able to win the case for the families. As a result of the murder, Fred, and the shift in the social climate of the city due to his murder, in 1983, Chicago elected their first black mayor, Harold Washington. William O'Neill would later admit his part in all of it, and I guess the guilt may have gotten him as he completed suicide on January 15th, 1990. So, keep in mind I wrote this. I don't know. I wrote this a while back. So, I don't agree with this quote as much as I did when I first read it, considering the election and CEOs getting murdered and all this stuff. But I want to leave you with a quote from Fred that I wish could still work today. I just don't know if it can. Quote, we got to face some facts that the masses are poor, that the masses belong to what you call the lower class. And when I talk about the masses, I'm talking about the white masses, I'm talking about the black masses and the brown masses and the yellow masses too. We've got to face the fact that some people say you fight fire best with fire, but we say you put out fire best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. We say you don't fight capitalism with no black capitalism. You fight capitalism with socialism. End quote. And honestly, before 92% of black women voted for Kamala, and then a whole fucking bunch of people voted for Trump, I I don't see us coming together quite as we would have in Fred's time.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we can't keep trying, I guess.
Yeah.
Fred's funeral was attended by over 5,000 people. I don't even know 5,000 people. What? He was a visionary and a man who would have gone on to change the world. But those in power could not sit back and let the status quo get messed up. So they had him murdered. And that is a historical fact that people want to erase from the timeline. And that is why we are here, to make sure these stories do not go unknown. And maybe, just maybe, these stories will light a spark in someone who will pick up their life's work and carry the torch.
For sure.
And who knows? Maybe we can get another rainbow coalition forming in the future.
Be nice.
Who knows? So, what do you think of Fred, Bill?
I think if he were alive today, that he would be doing good work.
You think the world would be different?
I'm sure.
Like between him and Martin Luther King and all these men that were assassinated.
Yeah, I think a lot of men in the 1960s that were protesting against the Vietnam War and, doing leaps and bounds in civil rights. I think if a lot of them were still alive, then it would be very different today. We might not have all this these struggles that all of us are going through.
Yeah, I mean, there would probably be different struggles, but
Sure.
I don't know. Hopefully, the last, Jesus Christ, 12 years wouldn't have happened. 16 years. I don't even know how long it's been since Obama got elected. I mean, I'm fine with Obama getting elected, obviously. I'm just saying everything that's happened since then.
I think everything from like John F. Kennedy up was just kind of bad, like government wise.
I think everything since the first white man landed on these shores.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of it's been
Actually,
for the people.
I can't even say that though. It's not even the white men. It was when the first colonizers showed up, because hello, Vikings.
Yeah.
Were actually coming and trading with indigenous tribes long before the colonizers showed up.
Yeah.
People from Africa were coming over to this continent and trading with the tribes here long before colonizers ever showed up.
Probably Asia too.
They didn't try and conquer them. Imagine that. The Vikings didn't try to conquer them. The Vikings did not try to conquer them. I mean, some of them probably did, but for the most part, like, they were just like, hey, we got this shit from over here. You got this shit over here. Let's trade this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I don't know, the British showed up and were like, it's ours.
Yeah. And Spain.
And Spain. I don't fucking forget those people. Y'all go listen to Indigenous Tales. They'll tell you all about the shit on the West Coast.
Yeah.
See, we grew up learning about how the British fucked the East Coast. That's why we talk about them a lot.
Yeah.
Indigenous Tales is in California. They're like, the Spain came over here and fucked us. So y'all go listen to them. They'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us for another episode today. I do hope you found this to be enlightening. We're going to take a break for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because I need to get my head screwed back on right. And
we're going to take a Christmas
holidays. Break. Yeah, it's the holidays. And Patty's going to be out of school for 2 weeks. It's all right.
But hey, it might give us a little bit of time to think about our 100th.
Yeah, it's coming up fast. We're getting ready to record, what, 97?
Yep.
Damn. All right, guys. We will see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.